Patrice, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. For those of you on the line who are not familiar with Patrice, he's part of the CWT team, one of their CTOs, and we've had the pleasure of knowing Patrice for a number of years. CWT was one of the first partners to join the travel and hospitality practice, and Patrice has always been heavily involved with innovation efforts on behalf of CWT. So we're very excited to have you on board, Patrice. Obviously, hearing from the TMCs during these challenging times is very, very important. And with that, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Amir. And so I wanted to start, I saw a question that I thought was very interesting, and it said, corporate partners are trying to reduce their costs to the maximum and cutting spending in innovation. I'm a corporate partner. And I think what's happening right now is I think it's almost a moment of truth of your innovation strategy. So either your innovation team is able to create value in revenue for the company or not. And it feels to me that if the innovation team is not creating revenue, then the team is going to be seen as a nice to have and the cost will be cut. Or if the team is able to create value in revenue, I think the team, is not going to be cut as much or even could be expanded. And just to give you an idea, last year for CWT in our innovation and new product teams, we generated around $37 million of revenue, the work we do on new products and innovation. And that to me does validate a lot of the work we do with plug and play as far as getting that strategy of working with startups. Because the beauty with working with startups is we don't do any in-front investments. We're not saying, hey, here's like a couple $1 million and go figure it out. What they do is they actually bring a product. Usually we do a deal with a revenue share. We take very little risk financially, but the reward can be substantial if we pick the right startup. So I saw that comment and I thought it's a very interesting, it is a moment of truth a bit for your innovation thinking and innovation strategy. Innovation for us at CBT has to mean we're creating value and we create revenue. So coming back to the discussion and best practices, definitely COVID-19, the crisis of our lifetime in the travel industry. And I think honestly we're still at the beginning of it. It was amazing to see how fast traffic went down. So from normal ratios to almost a trickle. I think it only took like 3 to 4 weeks for this to happen. So I think it's a little bit difficult to give best practices. So I thought hard about what can I share with you outside of cost-cutting exercise, as well as keeping our employees safe. But I thought 2 things that I wanted to share. First one was or is based on keeping a growth mindset. And what I mean about that is the fact that every day we get the news, there's always something new every morning. And we need to think about, instead of the impact on our business on the cost side, we need to understand what opportunity they can trigger. And I'll give you a couple examples there that are direct consequences of a crisis, but on the good side, positive way of generating incremental revenue for a company. And I think the second one other philosophy we have in the company is, I call it to go above and beyond. And go above and beyond to manage our clients and customers, because what's going to happen at the end of the day is that they will remember what we did for them. And they will remember for a very long time. And in fact, in the previous crisis, that is 9/11 or the 2008 financial crisis, we still talk about what we did at that time to support our clients. And we know that in the next 2 or 3 years, every conversation is going to start by, do you remember that crisis in 2020? So what did we guys do to help you? And so I will give you, even if for us it's not revenue generating actions, we have to go above and beyond to support our clients and travelers, because they will remember what we did for them. And it will create a bond, a better relationship, a new loyalty. And when we'll get to, renewal accounts or renewal accounts or an RFP, you'd be amazed that they will remember what we did for them. So let me go back to growth mindset first, give you some example of what we've seen of opportunities. And I think what's interesting in this crisis is how it moves week after week. different opportunities. So I'll go with the number one that we've seen is what I call unused tickets. In a normal year, normal times, a company, big corporation, would have around 2 or 3% of our traffic on the air side as unused tickets. And so we, as a TMC, we offer the service of managing those unused tickets. Think about, in the size of a business, 2 or 3% may represent like $300 million of air tickets. But in the last 4 to 6 weeks, pretty much the entire business that's out there has been canceled. And so pretty much 70 or 80% of those tickets are non-refundable. 20% are refundable. And suddenly, out of nowhere, we have hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of unused tickets to manage. And so those unused tickets are currencies. That's worth money. And so out of nowhere, suddenly we have to ramp up our efforts in that area. We have to explain to our clients potentially that those who didn't have that type of product to manage their unused tickets should have it today because there's a lot of revenue at stake for them, savings at stake for them, potential revenue for us. So it's one of the, you start the crisis, you realize all those cancels, you don't make any money on the cancel, but you realize that managing unused tickets is going to be very big in the next 3 to 6 months. Another example on a growth mindset is some of the products we have deployed with the startups. We have one in mind, which is called Yapta, that's just been acquired by Coupa. And Yapta is specialized into tracking airfares and hotel rates. So every 6 hours, it checks better airfare, better hotel rates. And because of a huge volatility in the market at the end of February, early March, clients saved, they had record savings at the end of February, early March. So clients were extremely satisfied with the fact that they could get something out of the volatility of the airfares and hotel rates. And for us, again, it was also another opportunity to bring some incremental revenue to the company. Now, obviously, the cancel will stop because we'll go into a mode where there's going to be little to no traffic. So what's next? What can we do? And so I think we're thinking really hard in this growth mindset. Shall we stop everything and pick it up in 3 months and see what happens? Or shall we continue or even accelerate deploying what we think are new products, more clients, even if there's a trickle of reservations in the pipe? But once the business comes back, then those clients are set up and we know that the revenue is going to come. So I think we decided in the company to continue our implementations of future products, even in some cases accelerated. And so the idea is we need to make sure and adapt almost on a weekly basis to the needs of the customers. So that's the one for the growth mindset. For the second one, let me give you a few examples of what it means for us to go above and beyond. One thing that was amazing in this crisis is that pretty much daily there were travel restrictions, right? We all you were on a flight to go to Paris, you were on a flight to go to Tel Aviv, you were on a flight to go somewhere, and suddenly there's a ban, restrictions, or something like that. And one of our big accounts on the West Coast in Seattle, we had proposed to them a year ago a messaging product. So, you can reach an agent, a CBT agent by email, or by phone, but we also had a product to reach agents by instant messaging. And they looked at it and were like, yeah, that's nice. It is a nice to have. In the midst of a crisis, they realized when the United States decided to ban the European routes, they realized they had a lot of people in transit. And so they asked us to be able to deploy that product in 24 hours worldwide. And that's something where we thought hard into it, and we thought, that's a delighter. That's not going to bring us more money, but because the traffic is low, but the impact for that client, knowing that all their travelers worldwide would be able to ask a question and say, hey, am I in trouble? Can I take on that flight? Are there restrictions impacting me? That was an absolute delighter. That's the kind of things I think that makes a difference. The kind of things when we go again to the renewal, we'll keep talking about it even in 3 years, 5 years from now. Another example I can think of is an energy company in Houston that did ask us to go above and beyond to get their people from certain markets when the markets were still infected with the virus. So we're not a relocation company. It's not what we do. We do air and hotel bookings on behalf of corporations. But if a client comes to us and they say, I have 50 expats, their family, please, go and relocate them from this country to this country where they're from, then we'll do it. We'll do whatever it takes to make sure that the client is being taken care of. So, I would say, again, the crisis we're in the middle of starting in the crisis. We're not at the end. I don't even think we reached the middle. It's hard to have best practices, but I think at least in my team and in our product department, we're thinking really hard about growth mindset. Always keep and think about the opportunity almost on a weekly basis of what we can do to earn that extra dollars and that extra value for our customers. And I think we really don't pay attention to the spend when it matters about going above and beyond for our clients and our travelers. We have to create the bond. We have to make sure that the loyalty is there, and we have to make sure they look at us back thinking we as a TMC brought them the value in the worst of times.
Thank you so much, Patrice. I would say from the plug and play perspective, we're trying to do the same things, going above and beyond. And I think this webinar is one of those things that we thought could be beneficial to the industry. And we hope to do many more of these for, I would say, corporate partners as well as corporate partners in the future. I think it's a time that all of us need to go above and beyond to help out the industry. Quick question for you, and then I'll pass it on to Jordan. So I remember the dot-com boom days and the bust days when everybody was saying nobody's going to get on a plane again, business is going to be done through video conferencing, and hotels are doomed, and airlines are doomed. I remember those days vividly, and obviously that wasn't the case. Business was being done as usual. People still traveled. Face-to-face meetings could not be replaced with video conferencing. But right now, I would say in the context of plug and play, at least because of the current environment, we're doing a lot of things virtually. And we're learning that there may be some services that we could actually continue providing virtually to all the stakeholders, be it corporations and startups. And doing it virtually actually would benefit all the stakeholders involved. And I'm assuming all businesses are going through this process right now, and maybe the way business is done a month ago may change the way business is done 3 months, 6 months from now. Can you touch upon that? As you're in touch with your clients, many of which are Fortune 100 companies, are you seeing signals that some of the business travel that took place in the past is perhaps going to change to virtual platforms for cost efficiency and operational efficiency purposes? So
what you say makes complete sense to me. So, we had the experience of the previous crisis and what was changed after the crisis. When 9/11, for example, was a huge change into the online adoption. The 2008 crisis was a change. We started to see the movement to go from to go to WebEx, to go to Zoom, to go to video conferencing. I think here the crisis is 10 times the size. I think it will have a huge impact on people's behavior. I don't think we're yet into understanding the impact of the future, because right now we're still in the middle of a crisis. I think about the last 3 weeks, 30% off for like 3 weeks. So I think people are still looking at what the hell is going on. But I think you're right. I think the behavior will change. I do think that working from home will be a lot more common. Using video conference will be more common. Now, I think someone said that this morning too. People will forget. I mean, it's not like we will be thinking about that all the time. And I think you saw 9/11 online transactions went up, and then it started to plateau. In some countries, it went down. It is, every crisis will bring its lot of changes, and I think we'll see what happens here. But I do think that working from home trend as well as the video conference will be a bit more predominant. That would be my guess.
Thank you, Patrice. Just one more question from my side. Jeff, from Accor Hotels mentioned that they put all marketing initiatives on pause for various reasons. So I guess my question to you and CWT would be, when these marketing efforts are on pause, how do you actually keep in touch with your clients, as you mentioned, and try to go above and beyond the contractual obligation that CWT has with existing and future potential clients?
Yeah, so I think the marketing function does make sense. I think there's two tools to handle during the crisis to lower your costs. It's the salary reduction and the leave without pay. So it makes sense to take the divisions with less impact in the next 3 months at a high ratio for leave without pay. On the other hand, you want to keep some of the functions well staffed to be able to handle the clients, to be able to follow up on what I was talking about if you need to have emergency actions in some markets. So you cannot reduce every functions the same. It's not like an order you take off 70% across the board for everybody and that's it. We have to selectively invest in our products, and we have to also selectively choose who's gonna stay in the company.
Great. All right, Patrice, question over here. Jeff mentioned that this might kind of turn around and start seeing, I guess, a light at the end of the tunnel towards the end of the summer. But when do you think business travel might start coming back to life? And are there any geographies that you think will kind of start moving quicker than others?
Well, if I knew the answer, it would be great. But I think our forecast, I'd say early Q3, which is I think is the same thing as Jeff. I think after the summer we should start to see some rebound. I think the question is also what's the intensity of a rebound compared to what we had at the beginning.
Yep.
It's likely to be a soft rebound, but you never know. It's just so many things can happen between now and then, and so many things could change the entire dynamics of this pandemic. If there was a vaccine, if there was a treatment, it's a bit complicated to predict. I did notice, I talked to a lot of startups recently and trying to keep, the discussion alive, making sure that they're doing okay. And I realized a lot of them make very long-term plans. They're looking at a crisis that lasts 18 months, that lasts 12 months. And so I was joking this morning with one, and I was saying, well, if it lasts 12 months, I don't think there's going to be any travel industry on Earth. But I think it's probably the most reasonable assessment is to say early Q3, and then depending on the actions of the different governments, depending on potentially cure, things like that, it could go either slower or faster.
Got it. And then Patrice, like you've been working with startups and technology providers for years. Like what kind of advice do you have for the startup community? We have, I'm sure, about 100 entrepreneurs dialed into this. Do you have any advice for them?
A lot of advice for them. But I do think that what I really like to do is I like to make a deal and get the results after the deal. I think a lot of people stop at exploring, contracting, but the most important in what we do in life, especially working with startups, to get the results. Like I said at the beginning, if you get the results, then suddenly the company will look at this work of working with startups to be essential, very good, high growth. You have to have this, you have the results. And so often it is hard to explain, even within our company or outside of our company, to say what matters is not the idea, what matters is not the pilot, what matters is that at the end, whatever you created, it creates value for your clients and yields results as far as revenue is concerned. It's the end result that's the most important. Mm-hmm. So I'd say concentrate on the end result, because as of today, all the third parties and startups we do business with create revenue. And if they create revenue, then in this crisis, they're safe. I mean, that's, even if we get a lull for 2 or 3 months, the most important is that we get the result.
Right. And then one more question. Now more than ever, with like people working from home, virtual tools like video conferencing, virtual meetings, remote work technologies are going to be more and more relevant. How do you think that's going to actually affect business travel post COVID-19?
I think Jordan, Patrice touched upon that with
Yeah.
the previous questions.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to rephrase the question, Patrice. You mentioned for one of your clients on the West Coast who asked for this, I guess, platform or app when they had team members overseas and they wanted it within 24 hours. So I like to think with every challenge, there's some opportunities that arise. So in the context of TMCs or CWT in particular, are you seeing signals from the market that you were not seeing that could actually help CWT offer new services or enhanced services to your client base in light of the COVID-19 outbreak?
I think it will happen. I think we're still, in the middle of the aftershock of the crisis, but I think in the next few weeks and months it will happen. That I think we'll look into, again, the new problems that will arise for our clients and solve them. To Jordan's question, I think I look at myself. I travel a lot. Well, not now, but I travel a lot, and I do a lot of WebEx. I love to see the person I'm talking to because I think there's a lot more signals, and we can listen to you. They don't multitask and all that stuff. And so I think video conference is a great way to communicate with someone. I think it's better than a phone call as far as I'm concerned. At least I know what the person is doing in front of me. It doesn't mean I'm not going to travel. So often people say, well, if they work from home and they use video conference, that means they're going to travel less. Yeah, maybe. But it's not a given. I mean, it just you use the tools that you think are the most efficient for you to do your job. We after 2008, I think we saw that trend. A lot more corporations were online and then doing video conferencing. But the corporate travel business still grew by healthy margins year after year. It's another tool. Think of it. I mean, we can't predict what's going to happen, but it's another tool.
Right.
Thank you, Patrice. Really, really appreciate it, and have always appreciated your knowledge in the context of innovation and digitalization, and obviously in the context of TMCs. And I believe you said that you have to drop off for another meeting, but really, really appreciate your participation today.
Thank you so much.